Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's public speaking session organized by Nyaya Shikshatrust. It is my pleasure to introduce our resource person, Viren, who will be leading today's session. Viren is a passionate about communication, confidence building, and helps individual develop effective public speaking skills. And on behalf of Nyaya Shiksha Trust, I extend a warm welcome to Viren and all the participants joining us. We look forward to an interactive and enriching learning experience. Thank you, and over to you, Viren.
Thank you so much, Ritika. It is my absolute pleasure to be here in front of you all. And to kick off the public speaking session for today, I have a presentation. Let me just share that. Ritika, is it fine if I share the presentation?
Yes, you can.
Okay. All right. So, this is the presentation that I've prepared for all of you today. And the topic that we'll be focusing on is how to talk to anyone without feeling awkward. So, the reason that I've come up with this topic today is because I think in public speaking, a very important part is how to approach different people, whether it's strangers or not, in ways that make us feel comfortable and smooth to communicate effectively. Because I think public speaking is not just about going on stage and speaking and delivering a formal speech, but it's about in daily life as well, about how to talk to different people because we all have different personalities. And that's exactly what we're focusing on today. So, first of all, it's all about initiating. Okay. And I did some research and I realized that almost every conversation has a follower and a listener. Sorry, no, a follower and a leader. So a leader is someone who starts the conversation, and a follower is usually who keeps answering the question. So, for example, if I meet, let me see the audience names today. Okay, so Gaurav, are you able to hear me? If you can, could you please unmute?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so for example, me and Gaurav, we are in a room, okay? And I see Gaurav and I start walking towards him and I say, "Hi, Gaurav, how are you doing?" So in that conversation, I become the leader because I'm the person who started. So, okay, Gaurav, I'm saying, "Hi, Gaurav, how are you doing?" What would you reply to me?
Hello, I am fine.
Perfect. And then we'll continue. So then I'll be like, okay, I'm also fine. And what are some hobbies of yours? I'll keep asking questions and then Gaurav will maybe reply. So in every conversation, let's remember that there's usually someone who starts, who initiates, that's the leader, and the follower is someone who answers. So this slide is all about the importance of initiating. Now, we have to remember that without initiating, without making that first step in any conversation, we cannot get anywhere further than where we are right now. And by that, I mean, if I do not know who, say, Richa and Anjali, if we're in the same room and I do not know who Anjali is, if I do not start the conversation and if I do not approach her, then I will not be able to make a new friend, make a new connection. So that's why the first thing we all have to remember is to be brave enough and have the confidence to go to the other person and say hello. So now that we've decided, let's become initiators. The first way to do this is your opening. So the opening is very, very simple. You don't need to say anything very extravagant. A simple hi, good evening, nice to see you, hello, that works because I did read some books and I have watched videos about how to open a conversation. And there were things like open it in a very unique way, like stop saying, "Hi, how are you?" But then I thought that if I start, for example, asking someone a deep or personal question right away, for example, if I live in Dubai, UAE. So if I go around and I say, for how many years have you been living in Dubai? And that's my first thing that I ask to a stranger. Then it will be very awkward because imagine this, I'm walking and say, I see someone else in this meeting. Okay, Alvina, or let's again go Anjali. Again, we are in the same room. And I just go up to one of them and I say, how many years have you lived in this country? Without a hi, without a how are you, there is going to be some awkwardness for sure because you're not greeting. So, step number one is very important, open. And the way you do that is a simple greeting depending on the time of day. It can be a good afternoon, it can be a good evening, it can be a hi. But one technique that you could use here, I've mentioned it here. Let me try to annotate if I can. Okay, it's written here C technique. I hope you can see I'm kind of putting an arrow here. C stands for smile, energy, and eye contact. So C is SEE, very simple. The first time when you all are going to someone, approaching them, and you want to create a good first impression, because I think creating a first impression is super, super important if you want to be successful, if you want to be remembered. Keep in mind the C technique. So C meaning S for smile. When you say hi, good evening, instead of just saying hi, good evening, say something like hi, good evening, a smile. Next is E for eye contact. Eye contact is very, very, very important because imagine I'm walking and I see you in the room and I approach you and I say, hi, good evening. I'm not even looking at you. So that could mean that I'm talking to anybody. It doesn't mean that I'm addressing you. I could be talking to someone on your right, someone behind you. Eye contact makes the other person feel valued. Okay, even though we've all heard it a lot that okay, eye contact, it is not used enough. I personally see this as a lot as someone who is very observant. We all often forget the importance of eye contact. So remember that after you smile, keep that eye contact in a way that is not too awkward. You're not just staring at them, but at least 70% of the times when you're talking and when there is a conversation, look into their eyes and be interested. And the third E is for energy. Okay. You can smile, you can have eye contact, but if you don't have energy, the other person may not feel positive when you are around. Okay. And I think that should be such a big goal that when you meet someone for the first time, when you talk to them, if you are able to make them feel something positive, that is one of the ultimate successes that you can ever achieve. So, to summarize the step one on this slide right here, using the C technique, come across as warm, come across as approachable, just a nice simple greeting. So you see someone, you say, hi, good evening, like that. Very simple. Now, the second part of this out of the three steps is warming up. Okay. And this is where I want you to pay very good attention. So, most of us, after we say hello, good evening, good afternoon, hi, after we greet, we jump straight to a very common question: how are you? And we think it's nice, like, okay, we are asking, how are you? We're asking them how their day has been. We think it's a good way to keep the conversation going. I'm sorry to say, no. Asking, how are you? Asking, what's up? Or who are you or what are you doing? These types of questions have become very, very, very common and cliche that it becomes predictable. So, again, I was doing some research about this and I tried to implement this in my life. And I see that when someone asks you, how are you, your brain often has a tendency to go on autopilot. So, this is how it works for me. When I'm talking to someone and I say hi, they say hi. I say, how are you? They say, how are you? When they say, how are you? My brain just knows that, okay, you know what? I've answered this question a million times in my life. Just say, good. What about you? So they say, how are you? I'm just saying, good. And you? Even though I may not be good, I may be very good. I may be super energetic, or I may not be having a good day. But the thing is, since this question, how are you, is so common, we often do not give an honest answer. That's why, remember, to stand out. I've written it right here. Stand out. I'm highlighting this in green because when you're talking to someone for the first time, if you come across as someone who speaks excuse me, if you come across as someone who speaks differently than other people, that is going to be super, super attractive and impressive. So instead of saying something like, "Hi, how are you?" These are some questions that you can ask them that do not feel so personal, but at the same time, it feels different. So, number one, this is my personal favorite. What's the best part or what's the highlight of your day so far? And I think this is so nice because you are encouraging a good positive conversation. Now imagine you see someone for the first time, they say good evening, hi, and then they ask you, so what's the highlight of your day been so far? Immediately that makes you think, okay, what are some good things that happened today? I woke up early, I slept well, I made a new friend, I finished this, I finished that. So instantly, that can bring about a positive atmosphere because we're thinking about what went well in the day. And at the same time, you're asking them for something specific. Like, okay, if they say like, I I had a very refreshing sleep today or a very refreshing nap, you have a specific thing instead of asking them, how are you? Good, as much as possible. And I want you all to notice, if you have a notebook or mentally, please do not ask questions that are close ended. And by close ended, I mean questions that can be answered by a yes or no, or very simply in one or two words. For example, how are you is a very, very close ended question. Someone says, how are you? You say, fine, you can walk away. But if someone says, what's the best part of your day so far? What's the highlight been? You're going to want to think about it. It's not very quick to say good, fine, and go away. And most likely, people will elaborate and say a sentence or two. So, to summarize, first, open. Okay. Hi, good evening, good afternoon. Number two, just a warm up question. It can even be what's keeping you busy these days. So, I think one thing we have to remember here is the importance of being a bit spontaneous. So, for example, what I mean by that is right now, today is Wednesday, okay, in the week. As we approach Thursday, as we approach Friday, the week has a lot of days that's passed, right? So now that means that you can ask someone what's been keeping you busy these days. Why? Because so many days have gone by reaching the end of the week. So of course they're gonna have some stories to tell you. And I think that's the whole beauty of public speaking and communication, that you can be flexible. You can change things. You don't need to have one fixed way of speaking to people. Okay, let's keep that in mind. And finally, something that we all may forget is point number three, explore. This is how you explore. Now, you ask someone that, okay, what's the highlight of your day been? If you've asked me that, and I say, I played basketball today with my friends in the afternoon. Now, often people will say, oh, you played basketball? Nice, nice. And then there's an awkward silence because you do not know what exactly to ask next. You do not know what to comment. So, this is just an example. Okay, this is not a good thing to say if you just want to say, oh, nice, or oh, cool, that's it, and stop there. Yes, you can comment, but ensure that you kind of put it back on them. Ask them another question, ask them a follow up. So, if they talk about sports, ask them about players. If they talk about any current events, keep trying to think, where are they interested in? And the way you know that is if you see a smile on their face, or if you see them talking very in a very enthusiastic and energetic tone, meaning they're passionate about it. So ask them more, be genuinely involved. Because what I see is most of our conversations, they start and end very quickly. Why? Because one person speaks, other person is listening, but the person who listens just thinks, okay, listen, nod your head, say one comment, and that's it. Even though there's so much more to listening. The best part is to try to keep the conversation going. And if you are someone who is not so confident with public speaking, the advantage of this is when you keep asking them or giving them the chance to speak, there's less pressure on you to speak. Because think about this, someone talks to you, you listen to them, you ask them a question, you don't need to speak much. So keep thinking of ways to do that and feel less pressurized while speaking. So initiating is opening, number two is warm up, and number three is explore. In this whole slide, I think the main takeaways is number one, to be using the C technique. Okay, SEE. I would really, really appreciate if, let me see the participants. If one of you could in the chat or raise your hand and unmute and tell me what does the C technique stand for, SEE. Could I get Richa? Richa, could you please either unmute or let me know in the chat the full form of SEE as we discussed? Richa, are you in the call? Okay. Until then, Gaurav, could you tell me what you understood from the C technique, SEE? Okay, the second one is correct, eyes. The first one is not C. The third one is not ears. Okay, not exactly. Okay, I will repeat this one more time. Okay, 1 second. Let me just check. I think my PPT is not working. Okay, yeah, it's working now. So, Gaurav, yes, the second one is eyes. That's eye contact. But actually, the first S is smile. Okay, smile, eye contact. And the third E is for energy. That's enthusiasm. So, you were close, but that's the main point of C technique. Okay, very important in whenever you're talking to someone for the first time. Moving on. Okay, I want this slide to be here for some moments and some minutes because this is very, very important. Now we've learned how to start the conversation, but how should we keep it flowing? How should we keep it going? The first thing is please let the conversation flow naturally. You do not need to think of, okay, this is what's going to happen, and do not need to plan. I need to speak like this. I need to speak like that. No. Okay. Literally, more than 60% of all the worries in your head about speaking to someone will just disappear if you are present in the moment and if you're confident that this conversation will go well like any other. Okay. Next thing is every new person you meet, try to think of them as a friend instead of someone who you may be intimidated from, someone who may judge you. If you think of them as a friend, like right now, there's Anjali, there's Richard, there's Gaurav. I'm thinking of all of you as people who I do not know personally, but as friends, as someone I can learn from, you can learn from me. That's what I think of. Because if I think of you as people who may judge me, who I may be embarrassed from, then it will be really difficult to talk to you because I'll start be like, what if they say this? What if they dislike this? And I'll start being so fearful. So very important thing is try to treat strangers and new people as a friend. Okay. Next, listen actively and be genuinely involved so that you are able to find ways. Okay, how can we keep the conversation going? This is the point, and let me explain it further because you may not understand immediately. So, the first thing is listening. Okay. Most of us, I think there was a percentage about 80 to 85% of people often speak a lot more than they listen. They enjoy speaking. I might be one of them. Like these days, I enjoy listening as well. But previously, for sure, I can tell you guys that I would love speaking in conversation. If I'm talking to you, expect me to just keep going on and on and on. But now I've been realizing that listening is equally and often even more important because if everyone likes speaking, then there have to be listeners. We've been made in a certain way that there's always a balance. For people who speak, there are listeners. For these listeners who speak, there are other listeners who listen to them. So that's how conversations often work. Now, when listening, please do not think of anything else. Do not like now, if I'm talking to you, you may be thinking of some other task, you may be thinking of something else to do. But in listening, in a conversation, my advice to you, and from what I see online, is to be in that moment, look into them. Actually, like, okay, if they're talking about a situation that happened to them, put yourself in their shoes, understand, okay, where they may be coming from. They may feel a certain way. They may have a certain thought process. Because once you genuinely feel involved in the conversation, it shows on your face, it shows in your body language, and they will really appreciate it. The biggest thing that whenever you're talking to someone new, if you're interested in what they say, they will surely be so happy with the way that the conversation is flowing. And that's so good, right? Because that's just your first impression. Now imagine you do that every single conversation. You're going to have such an amazing bond with that person. So another thing is about listening. Right now you're talking to me, but if this was a two-way conversation, for example, in person, if you listen properly, you can understand what topics I like, what topics I may not like, and what topics you think that I know more about that you can ask me. And that helps you avoid any awkward silences, helps you avoid not knowing what to say. So listen. This one word, listen, is very important. And we will be obviously speaking more about it in the upcoming sessions. So, a big part of listening is curiosity and questions. Now, by this, before you start thinking, I do not mean that you ask the most randomest questions just for the sake of it. I don't want you to ask something maybe silly or something very close ended just for the sake of asking it. No. But when you are genuinely interested, automatically you'll be curious about a few things. And so, when you think it is the right time to maybe interrupt them if they're not too passionate or if they're slowing down, ask them. Be curious about it. Smile. Show that you're interested. I think we all value that so much, right? Imagine you're speaking and you have someone who's sitting in front, looking at you, nodding their head, smiling, understanding. We feel so respected, right? Because it's rare that we find people who listen to us properly, who do not always want to speak and speak and speak. And that is something that if you develop the skill of listening, people will be very comfortable talking to you. So that is something to keep in mind. Next, okay. So this is something I face. I think a big problem I face in listening is that I cannot match their enthusiasm or their energy. Say they have met someone, met a big celebrity, okay, in the airport. They come back home or at school or wherever, they're talking to you, and they say, I met this person and wow, I feel so amazing. And it's a very high energy and they're jumping around and they're so happy. But what if you're a calm person? What if you're a composed person who doesn't react very high energy, which is someone who I am? What do? You can smile, you can nod your head, but then after that, they'll kind of feel like you don't value what they're trying to say. You don't understand what they're trying to say. So, in these very situations, here's a trick. Okay. Either share a personal opinion of yours. And by that, I mean, if they are talking about they met this new person, tell them that if it's a big person, okay, you know what, I think that this person is like that, or here's what I like about that person. An opinion is just as simple as that. Okay, anything you think, because we all form opinions about so many different things, that counts as a nice response. You don't always need to match their energy. And another thing is you could mention any personal experience of yours that relates to what they're talking about. Often we think that if we are listening, our job is just when they are speaking, understand what they're saying, listen, that's it. And then when it's our turn, only then we speak. But actually, conversations are two-way. Okay. In my last point here, I've written a conversation is not like a lecture. Lectures are often okay. Like right now, since you all are on mute, which I would be happier if not, but it's fine. We are, if I'm talking to you right now, it's kind of a one-way thing that I'm telling you, you're listening, and later on, okay, you have any questions, we can have a discussion. But that is not a conversation. In real life, when you speak to someone, a conversation is something where I say something, you have an input, you also say something. And that's what you should remember in listening. So if they talk about any topic, and if you remember anything, it could be something silly, it could be something you've already told them 100 times. Still, if you want to fill in any gap, any very long silence, or you don't know what to say, share it. Okay, you have a personal experience, they will be most happy to hear that. So that is how the conversation flows. Now we've discussed how to start it, how to keep it flowing. Now, one of my favorite slides on today's presentation, how to exit the conversation. Okay, this is something that is very difficult. I also find it difficult because usually the way we exit is a bit awkward. Okay, it's like if I'm talking to you right now, if I have somewhere else to go or if I'm done talking to you, I'll probably just walk away. Like I rarely see people who give a proper sentence like I have to do this. It was nice to talk to you, but blah 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 and okay, see you later. I rarely see that, especially in the youth, the young people. It's a bit rare, which is fine because we've not learned formally that this is how you exit. But now, since I've researched on it and I've learned about it, this is what I have to share with you. So, sorry for that. APP app. Okay, this is a framework to help you exit conversations gracefully and very smoothly. So A is for acknowledge, the first P is for purpose, and the next P is for parting. Now, this is to help you exit conversation. You don't have to use it, but initially, like in the next few days, what I would suggest is you practice these techniques. When you do, use this framework, and over time, you're gonna be so natural. You don't even need to consciously remember APP, APP. You don't need to. Okay, so acknowledge. It was so fun to catch up today. Okay, that's how you acknowledge. So acknowledging is basically saying to the other person that I enjoyed our conversation, and you can make it, you can even make it detailed. Say you're talking about, what could you talk about? If you're talking about the a new cafe shop opening, okay, very simple conversation, and you want to end the conversation, you want to exit, you can tell them something as simple as, I actually didn't know that cafe shop was opening, and I'm so happy we spoke about it. Very simple. You're not putting on. If you think that is too much for you to say, anything simple, just say that I learned something new or I had a good time. It was so nice to talk to you. It doesn't have to be formal, but if you can make it articulate, if you can make it sound clear, that is really, really helpful. Okay. So, number one, acknowledge. Acknowledge that you guys had an amazing conversation together. Number two, purpose. And this is something that is often hard to find because it may be a bit funny to hear, but for me, there are times when I don't have a fixed purpose to leave a conversation. I simply, the funny thing is that at times I just don't want to continue talking to them, or if I have someone else to talk to. And I think that is something that we will figure out over the time, how to deal with those situations. But for now, I think a very simple thing is for purpose. If you're in a room with a lot of other people or you have something to do, very simple. You actually have a purpose. I want to go and talk to my other friends there, my other peers, colleagues, whatever you call them. Or if you have to go somewhere, okay, it was nice to talk to you. You're acknowledging, and I learned something new today. I'm very happy for that. But I actually have to go. I have to catch the bus to meet blah blah blah. Okay, since you have something to do, something to go, or someone to talk to, that's your purpose. Very simple. But if you are not able to find any fixed purpose like that, that is also not really a problem as such, because you can just do something as simple as time. Okay. If you have a watch, look at your watch. If you have a clock in the room, just look at the room's clock. Make a proper body language cue. Social cues are something that people are very good at picking up. So if you're able to do something like that, like, oh, it's 6:30 p.m. and I completely forgot I have to go somewhere, anything like that, even if it's not 100% honest, but you have to get out of that conversation, use it. It completely works as long as you're not rude, as long as you're not abrupt. This is something that takes a lot of practice. Even I'm still working on it. Sometimes it can come across as abrupt. You've got to ensure that whatever you're talking about, that topic settles. Okay, wait for it to settle gradually, and then you say that, okay, this is why I've got to go, and it was so nice to talk to you. And then the parting, the last P, is a simple, it's a greeting, it's a see you soon, it's another thing to end it positively. So app is an amazing but simple framework to ensure that you're able to exit conversations very simply. A stands for acknowledge, next is purpose, and next is parting. If you remember this, you start applying in the next few days, you're going to be easily able to exit almost any conversation. I hope that has helped. Let's move on. Okay, now let's see. if we've actually learned something today. There's an activity on this slide, and it's very simple. So today we've discussed how to start the conversation, some things to remember, how to keep it flowing, and how to exit it. Okay, so we have Richa and we have Anjali in this call. So let's do one thing. First of all, Anjali, could you please tell me the C technique, SEE, either in the chat or if you could unmute, I'd be super happy. Tell me what the C technique is, and if you could give me an example as well of how you can use it. Anjali, please. Are you in the meeting? Just let me know on the chat. Okay, until Anjali replies. Richa, are you in the meeting? Okay, Anjali has said body language. Okay, yes, that is a part of C, but specifically I was referring to smile. So S is smile. Let me type that in the chat. How to stand and how to smile. Okay, Anjali, is this what you want to learn, or is this how? Okay, these are things you want to learn, right? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you then. Thank you for your question. Of course, I would love to talk to you about this. So, number one, how to stand. Okay, let me see if I can keep my phone on a tripod. Okay, so how to stand is very simple. Let me actually demonstrate and show you. Now, standing is something that really does show a lot about our confidence because when we are standing, a lot of us have different ways, different postures of standing. And that's why, Anjali, I'm happy that you've asked this question. So I'm going to show you what are some good, confident ways to stand. Okay, I hope I can be seen. Yeah, let me just unblur my background. Okay, so I hope you can see me. Let me make this standing. Now, okay, I'm standing all the way back here. The best way to stand, okay, first of all, we look at posture. I think posture is starting from our spine, our back. Please remember, before you enter any room, sometimes you might be walking like this, okay? So just move your shoulders up and back. That automatically makes you stand straight. Okay, say you're walking. If this is a room, before you walk, just do this. That makes your posture straight. Okay? Now, once your back is straight, what do you do about your hands? Your hands can either be at the side, that is completely fine if you're carrying it well. Okay, if you're just like this, like if it's flimsy, then no. Okay, that is not a good way to carry hands by the side. Just like this, okay, not too stiff because that's like you're standing straight for a national anthem or something. You do not want to come across like that. This works. Or if you have say pants or something, hands in the pocket is nice considering you look confident with a smile, or sometimes even this. Your hands like this just show composure. This is something that I personally see a lot of businessmen, businesswomen as well, entrepreneurs. They just do this when they're standing because it kind of does show some confidence, but it can be a bit formal. So I do not always suggest you do so. I think usually just standing like this sometimes. But I'm so happy, Anjali, you've asked me this. Here's what you should not do in body language. This. Never close your body. Okay? And by close, I mean any of your this whole chest and stomach area. Never we often have a thing to stand like this, stand like this. This is fine because see, at least the chest area is still visible. hands like this or hands like this is still fine. Only thing is when it's like this, then it doesn't come across as very confident. But I often see so many people like this. Okay. We think this is confidence sometimes, like, standing like this. Okay. For a photo, it's fine. But if you're in a room, if you're talking to people, this is really, really, really bad because this links to psychology a bit. Okay. When we have our body right here and someone is talking to me, you do not want to do this. Why? Because this creates a barrier. So say someone is talking to me here, okay? And if I fold my arms like this, or if I do this, or if I do this, or anything that covers my body, it psychologically, in a way, in a mental way, kind of doesn't show that I'm really interested, that I'm listening. If you keep it down, if you keep it like this, or you keep it like this, or like this is a better way to come across. And then another thing actually is like keeping your hands like this and behind your back. So this is also a pretty fine way, especially if you're listening to someone. I think this, when you're listening, is a good sign of being humble, of being a bit grounded, because when they're talking to you and you lean in and you listen, you nod, that's a really, really, really nice way to come across in terms of body language. Now, next you've asked me how to smile. So for this, I'm not going to be showing the full body. So how to smile. Okay, I've heard of this thing called the flooding smile. Okay, I've read this book called How to Talk to Anyone by Lyle Lowndes. I think I have the book right here. One second. Okay, so Richa and Anjali, this is one of my favorite books that I've had with me for the past about 1 year and a half, How to Talk to Anyone. And I've learned a lot from this that I keep applying to my everyday situations. So one of this directly links with what Anjali is asking, how to smile. So there's a technique called the flooding smile. And the flooding smile is something like this. Say I'm walking, okay? I'm walking and I see somebody. The flooding smile is where you do not instantly smile at them. You look at them, maintain an eye contact, maintain a glance for 1 to 2 seconds, and then you give them a very, very nice positive smile where your eyes are smiling and your mouth and your full face in a way that doesn't seem fake and it shows that you're happy to see them. I'm going to demonstrate, obviously, but what I'm trying to say, and a very important thing here, is that when you smile, try to make the other person feel loved, feel cared, and feel respected. This is what you should not do. If I'm walking and I see someone, I should not just I should not just smile like that because that shows that I've not even seen them. I've not taken time to look at them and I'm just smiling. And that's a fake smile. This is not how I smile in real life. If I'm happy, that's not how I smile. This is how you do a flooding smile. Say I'm walking, okay? I'm walking from a distance. I come here, I see you, I look at you for a minute, and I just do. We have different ways of smiling. So the way I do it, I usually do a very basic. I don't even use my teeth sometimes. I just do. So my eyes, they're a bit chinky. Usually we just smile like if your eyes are still open, that doesn't often show a real smile. If it's a bit chinky, it's okay. If it's kind of squinting, is what I'm trying to say. So usually you can smile like you show the happiness all across your face. And a very important thing is, Anjali, because we're not only smiling, right? It's not a photo, it's not a video. We're talking as well. When you talk, smile. That is so, so important. Right now, if I'm talking to you, and even if my voice is fine, and even if I'm doing voice modulation, I'm just looking at you and I'm not smiling. I come across as a very, very serious person. And that can be a bit intimidating. That can be a bit scary. But now, if I smile, not smiling too much, I'm still using my eyes to express, but just here and there, I'm trying to put in a smile that makes me come across as a much better person, more approachable, and more nice to talk to, someone we can feel more comfortable around. So I think that is a great way to smile. Try to imagine the other person as someone you love very dearly. So think about things you love. It could be your family. It could be many people, they feel very happy when they see a child, a newborn baby. Okay. And the smile you give to that, wow, hi, you're so cute. That same smile, that excitement, if you apply it to seeing other people, it's very, very effective. Okay. Think about something you're passionate about and that you really care about. Try to associate that person with that if you can, and then give them a very meaningful smile. And the third question is how to communicate. Okay, this is a very, very huge question. It's very broad because communication is such a big topic. There's speaking, there's listening, there's body language, there's facial expressions, there's a lot. Do you have anything specific, Anjali? Because I can help you, of course, but any specific parts of communication that you're doubtful about, do let me know in the chat. I will wait for you. Until then, Richa, if you are able to hear me and if you are still here, I would really appreciate if you could share some things that you've understood, that you've learned today in the chat or unmute. Please feel free, go ahead. Okay, I will still wait for Anjali. If you have any other questions, please go ahead. Richa, I also will wait if you have any takeaways from today. Let me see, do I have? Okay. Oh, that was pretty much it. That was the main content of today's presentation. I do not want to overload a lot of different techniques to you because I've learned many things through this book that I showed you, through the YouTube videos that I've been watching. But when we learn too much about this topic, because it's such an important topic, speaking, public speaking, communication, these skills are really irreplaceable. Okay, in this world with AI, with robots, with machinery. Yes, yes. So Anjali did ask me some questions. I'm just waiting if she has any other. So, like I was saying, these are some skills that are really not replaceable. Okay. And I'm so happy, it doesn't even matter today that if I would have 100 people joining, two people joining, but Anjali, Richa, even the two of you joining, and now we have someone else who joined. The great thing is that you have that interest in learning communication, in learning public speaking, because a very important thing to understand is at this age, at this stage when so much technology is replacing jobs, what are some skills that we can equip ourselves with that are very difficult to replace and that make us a better human being and improve our personality? So communication, public speaking are amazing, have a lot of scope. Okay, when we deal with people, we use communication. No matter your job, if you are a doctor, you use communication. If you are a nurse, if you're an actor, a singer, a firefighter, anything, any job, you use communication. It can be verbal, it can be written. So these skills, public speaking, are super important because we do not just public speaking, like I said in the beginning, is not just going on a stage, having a spotlight on your face and speaking. No, it is also talking to a few people around you in conversations. And I think that is super important. So if I were to give you some takeaways, I will put them in the chat right away. Anjali said that today's class is very helpful and you are learning many things today. It really means so much to me, Anjali. Thank you so much. I'm happy that you are active and that you ask so many questions. I think that could that could be the best compliment for me. So let me just type some things I would like you to remember and take away from today in the chat. Just give me a few minutes, please. Okay, so number one, use the C technique for better first impressions, and to start a conversation. Okay, so C technique stands for smile, eye contact, energy. That's one. Number two, what was number two? Stand out. Okay, do not avoid asking the close ended questions like how are you or how was your day. Instead, Ask what was a highlight in your day today, and try to cultivate a positive atmosphere in the conversation. So I want to add something here. Oftentimes it happens that when we when we talk to someone, okay, and there's a disagreement in opinions. So say I like sports a lot, so I often keep bringing it up. Say I'm talking to Richa and we are discussing basketball, and she says, "Oh, you know what? I don't like basketball. It's such a boring and physical, physically violent sport. I love basketball." I have one option, either to say, "I love basketball. What are you saying, Richa? It's such an amazing sport. Why are you saying that?" Or I can be a bit more diplomatic about it, and I can say, "Okay, well, we all have our opinions. I do enjoy basketball, but I do understand it can be a bit violent at times. This is where you have to be a bit more wise. If this is someone who you're going to be meeting very commonly, very often, like your friend or anyone like that, then of course go ahead, share your honest opinion. That's great. You're being honest. You are encouraging more and more discussion. But if it is someone who is a stranger, someone new, try, like I mentioned in the chat, to create a positive atmosphere, something where there's not much disagreements, because this is not someone who you're going to meet again so soon. Yeah, it's a stranger, it's someone you're meeting for this one first time today. So if you are able to create an atmosphere where you both smile, you both have a nice time, maybe some jokes, then you could create a better bond with the person. And I think that is super, super important when talking to them. Even if you disagree with something, try being diplomatic. It really helps for sure. You should try that out. And actually, the thing I'm trying to say today is all these things that we're learning, these frameworks, exiting conversations, entering them, once you apply them, okay, you start, say, today is Wednesday. Okay, today is already a bit late, it's evening time. Tomorrow, okay, just one person, wherever, if you step outside the house or you're online, wherever, all I would like you all to do is approach one stranger and try to start a conversation. It could be when walking on the road. If you're at a signal light, traffic light, you stopped, gather the courage. It'll take you 2 to 3 seconds. Use what we've learned today and say the magic, see the smile on their faces. Okay, because really people love it when you talk to them, especially if they're strangers. So I've put 2 takeaways in the chat. Now let me, what else did we learn? Okay, let the conversation flow naturally. Yes, very important. Third takeaway is listen actively. Okay, there's something called passive listening, which is very easy to spot. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a trick here. How do you identify if someone is passively listening to you? If you're talking and they're just doing this, if they're just nodding like that, meaning they're not actually understanding and processing everything you're saying, they're just showing you that they're listening, they might not be. Okay, nodding, and it's something hopefully I do discuss in my upcoming sessions as well, how to be a better listener. Is not Nodding is not always the best way. We think nodding shows that yes, we are understanding. Not always. The best way to nod is after they finish a point. You're listening to them, they finish a point, one slight small nod should suffice. If they're talking to you, there's no need to do this. You're kind of rushing them, you're pressurizing them to finish quick. So that's very important. Listen actively, be genuinely interested, ask questions when you feel like, and try to, what can I say, stretch the conversation. Okay, don't let it die out very quickly. It's very simple for us to say, okay, bye, I'm going. Try to push yourself, stretch the conversation, put in some effort. You will see the results very soon. Try to stretch the conversation right there. Okay, now what else do we have here? Listen actively. Okay, and finally, our fourth takeaway is app framework to exit conversations. Okay, so that is acknowledge, purpose, and parting. Very simple. So finally, that is the session. That is everything I actually wanted to share today. Thank you all so much. What I want to say is we have one misconception. Okay, and that misconception is that I hope you all have heard the word charismatic. Okay, charisma, charismatic. We all think that we have to sound interesting to be charismatic, to be impressive, to sound like a very amazing person, that we have to have amazing stories, have a very interesting life. But here's what I've realized: you don't always have to sound interesting to be charismatic or to be impressive. The key to success in this communication often lies in being interested in what they're trying to say. So, right now, for example, if we were all together in an in person setting, I don't expect Gaurav to have an amazing life and to share that I'm this and I'm a scuba diver and I see this and I do this. I do not expect that. What would make Gaurav come across as someone who's very charismatic, someone who's very a gentleman, something like that, a good person, is when he shows me that he's interested, when he listens actively, and when I see that he's involved. So, my fifth takeaway for you all to share is interested is often better than interesting, as much as you may not realize it. So that is it from me. Thank you all so much for joining this session. I really, really had an amazing time and I appreciate you joining. I hope you've learned something. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions, you want to learn something else. I hope to collaborate with Nyaya Shiksha Trust in the future as well. And thank you. Have a lovely day ahead. Please do try, approach strangers, talk to your friends, and use these techniques. Thank you so much. Ritika, you may take over.
Thank you so much, Viren, for taking such an amazing session. With this, we come to the end of today's public speaking session. On behalf of Nyaya Shiksha Trust, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our resource person for delivering such a wonderful and insightful session. Your guidance, knowledge, engaging presentation have inspired all of us to become somewhere more confident speakers. Thank you all the participants for your active involvement, your enthusiasm. We hope you enjoyed the session and learned valuable skills that will help you in the future. Stay connected with Nyaya Shiksha Trust for more such learning opportunities. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you to the resource person once again.